In this video, I'm going to show you how to safely raise and support this Toyota Camry with the vehicle's jack that is provided with your spare tire so you can replace a flat tire on the side of the road. At the end of the video, I'm also going to go over some jacking points for a floor jack as well as areas where you can put jack stands if you decide to raise this on jack and jack stands in the driveway so you can perform a repair. Having said that, if you need any parts for your vehicle, check us out at oneauto.com. Let's get started. In order to access your spare tire and spare tire tools, you're going to need to open up the trunk. In the trunk, if you lift your carpet, if you have this secondary carpet, you'll see that the floor of the trunk has this little hook here with a kind of like a grab handle. Pull this up. On the underside, you'll see that it can hook onto something. That is so that you can hook it up here and not have it fall down while you're trying to get to your tools. Speaking of tools, here's the jack that comes with the vehicle, your lug wrench to remove the lug nuts, as well as the handle for the jack. If your vehicle has locking lug nuts, you will also need the special key for it. Otherwise, you will not be able to remove all 5 of your lug nuts off of the wheel. This is typically located in the trunk right here with your tools or in the glove box. Lift up the styrofoam piece and you'll find your spare tire. To remove the spare tire, unthread the spare tire hold down. Set that aside and remove the tire. So let's say you have a flat tire on the front of the vehicle. Well, it's actually unsafe to put this type of spare tire on the front or on a steer tire, even in this case a drive axle. So this is where all the weight is going to be, all the power, all the steering. It is not recommended to use it here. So what you would want to do is put it on a rear wheel and then transfer a good wheel onto the front. So that's what I'm going to show you today. Having said that, let's go to the rear. Here's the rear wheel. Assuming that this is a good one, you're going to want to transfer this to the front. Now if your flat tire is in the rear, then it's easy. You just replace this one and off you go. One more thing I'd like to mention is that anything I show you will apply to both sides of the vehicle. They are completely symmetrical. I will go over the jack points again in a little bit, but for now, let's replace this with the spare tire so we can put this in the front. Before raising the vehicle, we have to break free the lug nuts. Otherwise, you're going to be jerking it around back and forth, and the wheel might even spin if it's off the ground, and that is unsafe. If you have a locking lug nut, take your key and set it right on it. If you don't, it's easy peasy. You don't need this. Now take your lug wrench, which should fit right over the lug nuts, and break them free. Turn counterclockwise. If you are unable to break them free, you can kick it, but be very careful if you do that so that you don't get hurt. When you loosen these, don't go more than a half a turn at most. You don't want the wheel to fall off. You just want these to be broken free. There we go. Now you're going to want to take your vehicle's jack, slide it underneath, and you'll see right here, that's called the pinch rail or pinch weld. This notch right here, or this double notch, represents exactly where the manufacturer wants you to put this jack to safely raise this vehicle in case of a flat tire. So by spinning this clockwise, I'm going to raise it until this notch lines up with that area. Just like so. They're supposed to slide into one another. Put some pressure on it. And then you're going to take your bar here, this hook, which is basically just the handle for the jack, turn it clockwise until you lift the vehicle off the ground enough to remove the wheel. When doing this, make sure that you are on a flat surface, your parking brake is set, and of course the vehicle is in park. If the ground is soft, make sure you put something underneath the jack that'll prevent it from sinking into the ground. If you're on pavement, that's even better. We're about an inch off the ground, so that is plenty of clearance. Now take that lug wrench, remove the lug nuts the rest of the way, and then we can pull the wheel off. On the last lug nut, the wheel's going to want to fall off, so hold it, remove the lug nut, and remove the wheel. Take that spare tire, line it up, install it on the studs, and start on some lug nuts, that way it won't fall off. Even though my parking brake is set and the wheel won't spin. It is not safe to try to tighten these with this jack in place. So what I'm going to do is just snug them a little bit and then lower it so the wheel touches the ground. And that will allow me to put more pressure into these lug nuts. I'm going in a cross pattern to make sure I tighten up this wheel evenly and that it's not sitting at an angle. Now that it's snug, let's lower the jack a little. Turn counterclockwise to lower it until the wheel touches the ground. I'm going to go about halfway down. That's plenty of weight on the wheel. So now let's tighten it extra. You're going to want to put your weight into this. The torque is 76 foot-pounds on these lug nuts, but of course you're not going to have a torque wrench with you. So I'm going to go about a quarter of a turn after they bottom out. That should be plenty. In a cross pattern, of course. And it's a lot easier to push than it is to pull up to tighten them. Double check them if you want. All right, now with them tight, I'm going to remove my locking lug nut key, and let's lower the vehicle all the way down. It's normal to hear some creaky noises from the tire as it's settling on the ground. The jack is off of the vehicle, so the vehicle is now fully on the ground on its own weight. Remove the jack. Now, like I said at the beginning, if this was your flat tire, you're ready to go. Put your flat one in the trunk and go get it repaired. If you had a flat tire in the front, this is when you would want to take this wheel and put it in the front, so let me show you that. With the vehicle in park on a flat surface, engage the parking brake so that all the wheels are nice and locked up tight. That way the vehicle cannot roll as you do this job. And now take your lug wrench. These are just 21mm lug nuts, but the lug wrench will fit on them. Now, since we're working on the front, right behind the front wheel, just about where the front door starts, if you look underneath, you'll see the pinch rail here. That designates the area that the manufacturer wants you to put their jack on to raise the vehicle safely to change your tire. Now, you want to bring in that jack and make sure you line it up properly with that spot. Raise it up by hand by turning the threads clockwise. That cutout on the jack should line up with that lift point. Put a little bit of pressure on it. Now grab this handle, hook it onto the jack, and turn it clockwise to raise it up. There we go. I'm going to stop here. The front tire has lifted off the ground. You don't need to go very far. As soon as that lifts off the ground, stop, and let's replace the wheel. Carefully finish removing the lug nuts and remove the wheel. On the last one, the wheel's going to want to come off. That's normal. Remove the wheel. Now you can take that rear wheel, put it on the front. There we go. Start on all 5 of your lug nuts. That way we can make sure this wheel stays on. I know we can't tighten them yet. I'm going to snug them up as much as I can with the vehicle up in the air, but we can't fully tighten them, otherwise the wheel is just going to spin. Take that lug wrench and snug them all up, one at a time, and in a cross pattern is going to be the best way to do this, to make sure you seat that wheel properly. All right, so these are all as snug as they're going to go with the vehicle up in the air. Let's lower it a little bit and then tighten them up a little more. Spin this jack counterclockwise to lower the vehicle. Go about halfway down. That should be enough pressure on the wheel to prevent it from spinning, but not too much to where it'll want to push the wheel off. Now take that lug wrench and put your weight into it. Give them a good snug. The torque on these is 76 foot-pounds, so it's not an insane amount. Do your best. This does not provide a ton of leverage, so putting your weight into it is going to be your best bet. Going across pattern. There we go. That should get you to the nearest tire repair shop safely. Once you're done, your full-size wheel that has a flat tire will not fit in here most likely, so you're going to have to put it in the trunk on top of the trunk mat. However, I'm going to reinstall my spare tire now. So when you get your flat tire fixed, this is how it's supposed to go back together. Install the spare tire with its face facing down. Make sure it's sitting nice and flat. In the center, thread in this retainer. When you tighten this, you're going to want to make it snug. If you don't, this wheel can rattle around in the trunk as you drive, and that's not going to make some very pleasant noises. So make it nice and snug. Don't over tighten it though. Now you can set your styrofoam piece back. Put back all of your tools, the jack, the lug wrench, as well as the jack handle. Put the mat down. Make sure it all lines up. And there you have it. Close your trunk. Now let's go over the jack points for a floor jack and jack stands. If you want it to work on the rear of your vehicle, slide the floor jack underneath the center of the rear, and you'll see that the subframe has a little notch, an indent on it that comes down from the center. That's where you'd want to jack it up, and this will lift your whole rear end evenly. When you do this, make sure you have the front wheels chalked off so the vehicle cannot roll. Several inches off the ground like this is plenty of space to work under and still keeps a safe height for the jack stands. You do not want to max those out height-wise because they can become unstable. When placing your jack stands, you can either use the pinch rails right here, or when you have this style jack stand, sometimes it can actually crush the pinch rail. So what I recommend is going right here on these plates that have that drain hole in them. They are meant to support the weight of the vehicle. So set up your jack stand in a way in which you think will fit the best. Bring it to the height that you need to, and then lower the vehicle directly on the jack stand. Now when you do this, you want to put jack stands on both sides evenly. Once you're done, lower the vehicle on the jack stand. If you need to raise your vehicle in the front, I recommend going right underneath the radiator. The radiator support on the bottom will have a notch. That's where you're going to want to put your floor jack and raise up the vehicle. The whole front end will raise up evenly if you go here. Make sure your parking brake is set and you chalk off the rear wheels just to make sure that the vehicle does not roll. Once you're a few inches off the ground, go ahead and put your jack stands underneath. When putting jack stands on the front of the vehicle, you have a few different options. You can go here on the pinch rail. However, if you'll notice with this style jack stand that does not have a groove for the pinch rail, it can actually cause damage to it. That's how this happens. So if you want to put it here, just make sure if it's too high on this end or this end, it can actually also puncture the floorboard. So another option you have is to go right here on this flat part. This is meant to hold the weight of the vehicle, or directly on the integrated frame rail of the vehicle. Looks like for this, I would need to raise it up a little bit more. There we go, a couple more pumps on the floor jack, and it is lined up. Once you put a jack stand on both sides of the vehicle in the same spot, go ahead and lower the vehicle on the jack stands. Make sure you do this slowly. And there we go. Vehicle is on the jack stands. Once you're done, lower the vehicle slowly. And there you have it. If you're using a lift to raise this vehicle, you can use the same exact spots that you would put jack stands in.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.